Сегодня у нас очень интересный гость, Скотт Риттер, известный независимый военный и политический эксперт в области международных отношений, бывший офицер разведки Корпуса морской пехоты Соединенных Штатов и бывший инспектор Организации Объединенных Наций по разоружению. Он широко известен и в России, и в мире, в частности, российской зрительской аудитории. Часто выступает с политическими обзорами и комментариями по актуальным вопросам политической повестки дня. И сейчас господин Риттер совершает тур по российским городам. Сегодня он у нас в Казани.
Hello. It works. First of all, thank you very much for coming today. It's an honor and a privilege to have an opportunity to speak with you. I spent 5 years of my life doing nothing but training how to kill Russian soldiers. And then we signed this treaty. And instead of training to kill Russian soldiers, they sent me to the Soviet Union to learn to work together with the Russian people. And over the course of 2 years, I learned to stop wanting to kill Russians and instead learn to like Russians. And this book is the story of that transition, that transformation. So I'm eternally grateful for Alexander Zuryanov of the Investment Development Agency of Novosibirsk and for everybody who's helped bring me to Russia to have an opportunity to present this book to you. Back in the 1980s, we Americans were afraid of Russia. We didn't understand Russia. So the key is getting Americans and Russians to meet together and learn about each other. As I said, that process took a Marine who was solely focused on killing Russians and turned him into somebody who wanted to be friends with Russians. Now, we can do this through new arms control, or we can do this through economic cooperation, or we can do this simply by having people meet with people. In America, we have a huge problem, which we call russophobia. We are afraid of Russia. But the reason we're afraid of Russia is that we're ignorant about Russia. So the best vaccine for this disease is to learn about Russia, which is one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm meeting with you, I'm meeting with the people of Kazan, I'm meeting with the people of Russia, and I'm learning new experiences. I'm learning about you, about your culture, about your religion, about your soul. And then I'm going to go back to America and I'm going to meet with my fellow Americans and talk to them about Russia. It's the first step in a long journey, but it's a journey we have to take because the consequences of not taking this journey are severe.
Thank you so much. Спасибо.
Вы сказали, что ваша книга издается также в США. Можете пояснить, каким тиражом она издается в США, каким в России и где лучше идут продажи?
Я не знаю. I don't know. Where's the Комсомольская правда rep? I think I don't know how many books were initially printed, and I don't know what the sales rate is. It's not my business. I understand that based upon the reception it's received, that it's being popularly received in Russia. In the United States, when the book was published, the publisher didn't believe it was going to be a popular book. I think they only printed 500 copies to start. I don't know the final sales numbers, but I think in the United States, this message is starting to catch on. But I think the Russians are doing a better job of rolling the book out than my American publisher did. The United States that wants to sustain its role as the global hegemon, and another nation, Russia, that's ruled by a president, Vladimir Putin, whose strong desire is to let Russia stand on its own 2 feet. The United States would like nothing more than Vladimir Putin to transform into Boris Yeltsin. I mean, I don't have to tell you what the 1990s were like in Russia. It was horrible. The United States controlled you economically, and we controlled you politically. Today, you have a president that says, we're not going to let that happen again. And that angers us. And so that's the nature of the conflict today. It's not about competing ideologies. It's about survival. The survival of Russia, because we don't want a strong Russia. We want a weak Russia. That's the nature of our conflict. I don't believe Russia wants a war. The history clearly shows that Russia's reacting to an American provocation. Let's talk about Ukraine. If it weren't for Russian nuclear weapons, this war in Ukraine would be a completely different war. Russian nuclear weapons are the only thing to keep the United States and NATO from directly being involved in the Ukraine conflict.
Как вы сегодня оцениваете журналистское сообщество своей страны?
Today, the press has become the voice of the government. I have a good friend, some of you may know his name, Seymour Hersh. He's an American investigative journalist. He made his reputation uncovering the darkest secrets of the American government, because the government can have no secrets from the American people. But today, Seymour Hersh can't get published anywhere in America because all of the publishing houses don't want to uncover the darkest secrets in here. They've all aligned themselves with the government. Journalism is dead in America. I'm sorry to say that there is no real journalism left alive in America today.
Вы не боитесь, что после путешествия в Россию, визитов сюда могут быть ужесточения по отношению к вам? Потому что я например, знаю, что некоторых европейских журналистов правительство применяет в отношении к ним некие санкции экономические, еще какие-то. Например, Грэм Филлипс из Великобритании получил такие санкции.
Am I afraid? No. Am I worried? Yes. You're 100% correct. Speaking out against the policy of the American government oftentimes results in the powers of the American government to be turned on you. In America, we have a saying, "This isn't my first rodeo," meaning I've been through this before. When I resigned from my position as a United Nations weapons inspector, a very senior CIA official told me straight to my face that if I speak out against American policy, the FBI will destroy me and my family. And I can tell you they tried very hard to do just that. Am I afraid? What more can they do to me? I'm worried they may try it again. What I know is if I don't do what I'm doing right now, nobody else is going to do it. So I'm not afraid. The thing that I'm impressed about with the Russian people is the seriousness in which they take the work that I'm trying to do.
I'm listening to you and thinking about that you sound naive, surface naive.
Yeah. The problem is, this proves that I'm not. You're not talking to somebody that is a simple academic, and I don't mean to criticize simple academics. I've been to war. I spent 7 years in Iraq disarming them of weapons of mass destruction. I had
Как
people try to
военный.
kill me 3 times there. Naive? I went to prison for 3 years because of what I believe in. There's no naive in this body.
But I mean, you words about let's get together, let's discover Russia's souls, let's try to understand each other.
Well, why don't you come to America with me? And I'll drive you around just my town. And we'll count the Ukrainian flags that are flying from every home. We'll count every Ukrainian flag that's flying from every home.
You
What
know,
is it?
I have Ukrainian roots, you know?
I don't know. But you're missing the point. The American people don't know anything about Ukraine. They put the flag up just because they makes them feel good. Go to a bar in New York and try and order a Moscow Mule. It's the name of a drink. They don't call it that anymore. They call it the Kiev Kick.
Kiev kick.
Kick. We can't say Moscow anymore. Go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and look at all the former Russian painters that have been named Ukrainian painters. And when you talk to the American people and you say, why do you do this? They say, well, the Ukrainians believe in freedom. Russians believe in Putin. The Russians aren't good people because they believe in Putin. So am I really that naive to say that maybe the best way to overcome this ignorance is to talk about who the Russian people are? If you have a better idea, I'm all ears.
Thank you so much.
What is the role of the United Nations in promoting relations between Russia and the United States of America?
The United States wants to control the agenda of the United Nations. I mean, just look at the trouble we gave Sergei Lavrov when he tried to fly to New York to chair the Security Council. We delayed the issuance of his visa, and we have harassed him at every step of the way. Anytime Russia wants to discuss an issue of importance, for instance, the presence of American biological research facilities on Ukrainian soil, the United States prevents this. So the United Nations is no longer a viable vehicle of international diplomacy. But the good news is Russia has reached out and is developing effective relations with other nations around the world outside of the framework of the United Nations. The bottom line is, if the American goal was to isolate Russia, to weaken Russia, it's failed. Which means if the United Nations doesn't find a way to reinvigorate itself, to stop being an agency that can be exploited or used by the United States, diplomacy will find another way to be practiced. And I think Russia is writing the book on that right now.
Какого мнения придерживались солдаты, с которыми вы вместе служили, о российской армии?
Thank you for your question. I assume you're talking about back in the 1980s. We took the Soviet military very seriously. We respected the size of your military. We respected the quality of your equipment. We respected the professionalism of your officers. The reason why I trained so hard for 5 years is because I knew if I didn't, and we went to war against the Soviet Union, I would probably die. So we trained hard because we respected the Soviet soldier and we respected the Soviet army. And I would hope that every American soldier and Marine and sailor and airman who serves today respects the Russian army in the same way. Thank you.
Спасибо.
Спасибо вам большое, мистер Риттер, за вашу любовь к России,